What up guys, Command here, and welcome to a new video in my Unreal Engine project, even though it's all coming under the Unreal Engine series. But what I'm going to be more focusing on today is the motion capture and animation side of this animation sort of project that I'm doing. So what I'm going to be doing is, this is the reason why I sort of starting with just an audio segment. This isn't going to take very long, but I just want to go through what I'm going to be doing in this video. So I'm going to start off in my VR software, showing you how I record the motion capture and how to do it. I'm using a software called APS, but you can also use Glycon. Just for this particular instance, because the type of mocap that I'm planning on doing, APS is just a little bit easier. And so I'm going to go into APS first to record the motion capture. Then I'm going to go into Blender to import and clean up the motion capture. Then I'm going to show you then how to import it into Unreal Engine and connect it to your model, and then retarget and connect it all up so it can be worked in your scene. So hope you guys do enjoy this video. And I shall see you inside of APS. Alright guys, so we're now in APS. Now I've sort of just set up my work area just so it marginally sort of replicates what I normally use when I'm doing mocap stuff. This isn't exactly it, but for better or for worse, this is how my setup. So I've got my little UI thing here, and then I've got my mirror in front of me so I can actually see what I'm doing. So if you're new into APS, the way APS works is you've got to, so you have your base set of avatars that you have come with. So some of these are the Halo 2 Anniversary Elite, the Battle Droid, and the Arbiter. Now I've all done that myself and imported them in. Now I would do another video on how to import your own custom avatars into the software, but the actual developer has done this already himself, so save wasting my time when there's already a video good enough to show you how to do it. I'll link that in the description down below. So I've imported a load of different models for different types of animation that I need, whether it be for experimental purposes or for actual traitor stuff and animation things. Anyway, so I've got the clone trooper here. Now the good thing about this clone trooper is it's using the Battlefront 2 skeleton. Now the Battlefront 2 skeleton is universal across the entire of all of Battlefront 2's models. So all of the humanoid models, so whether it be clone troopers, stormtroopers, officers, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Count Dooku, whoever, they all use this humanoid model and this humanoid skeleton. So that means any humanoid model that I want to animate using mocap, if I use this one skeleton, this one model, this will work universally across everything, which is great. Now that's the reason why I've got things like the B2's mesh and the assault droid mesh as well, because they use different skeletons, so consequently they need to be done differently because they don't retarget exactly the same, right? So that's fine. So what we need to do now that we've got this, so what you'll probably be like greeted with when you start is something along the lines of this simple skeleton here. So if I click activate, you'll probably be like greeted with this skeleton here, right? So what they need to do is you need to, so I'm using an Oculus Rift S. So my button to bring up the UI is A, right, the top button, right, the one closest to the joystick. So I'll bring up this. Then you click the avatars. So bring up all the avatars that you've got. So I've got a load of different ones here. So then you click on the one that you want. So in this case, I want the Battlefront 2 skeleton. You click activate, and it'll do it like that. Then what you need to do, if you hold into a T-pose, press the bottom two buttons at the same time, then you'll get something. Is it the bottom two? Oh no, the top two. So top two buttons again, and it'll calibrate, and then you can motion cap like this, which I think is really cool. So then what you do, you open up your UI again by pressing A. I like to tweak about with the smoothness settings. There's a lot of different settings you can play about with. Like locomotion stops you from moving, so I can go like that if I'm moving. If I turn that off, I just like move from side to side. There's a couple of other settings that I need to adjust as well, such as the scale in the avatars settings. There's all different settings as well. I don't particularly change too much this. I change the arm length ever so slightly and the hands length, because if I show the controller, sometimes it's all like down here. So I just sort of need to move them just so it's a bit more accurate what my actual movements is. and then I slightly change the arm's length every now and again, just so they actually like look a bit more naturalistic, right? But a lot of this can be done, as far as making it look a bit more natural, can actually be done inside of Blender, but we'll get to that in a second. So now what you need to do is you need to click record, and then what I do is to do a countdown, right? So I'm just going to do a basic, simple, so idle like this, do a little, movement, then go salute, nod, and back down, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop by clicking the top button again. I'm pretty sure it's the A button, I'm not entirely sure, but so as you can see, it's playing around again. It's only a couple of seconds, but we don't want anything too long, because it's only going to be a simple short scene that we're going to be doing anyway. So what you then need to do, so that's going to be playing automatically. Now with APS, you can click end, but you need to have it previewing in the viewport before you can save and export it. Right, so I'm just going to put this as YT1, so YouTube Project 1. Click export, and then what that will do is then on my desktop, the folder itself will actually open where the Blender file is located for using this that stores this mocap in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut ahead in the video to when we get into Blender, and I'll be back once a minute. Okay, so now we're in Blender and we're on the opening screen. So what I'm going to do is I've got the file that it opened here. So there's two ways you can do this. Now I think that when I click open, it's going to send me straight to that directory. So I'll show you what would happen in the event that it doesn't. So click open. So yeah, it basically takes me to the directory where all of my APS files are located, right? So that's the YouTube test one, that's where it comes from. If you, let's say, start at the desktop, right, what you need to do is you need to go to the file that's already open. This is only for Windows. I think Mac and Linux work relatively similar, but this is just for Windows. Click the address bar, and you can see your file path, right? So all across it goes, that's your whole file path, right? So you click all, you click copy. So Control C or right click copy. Then go into Blender, go into the address bar, click V, paste, and it'll take you straight there. Right, that's basically how you do it. So then you need to click this sceneloader.blend file. So double click that and it'll automatically open. You should see something along the lines of this. Right, so then what you need to do is you need to click this little run script button. It looks a bit like a play button. And click that, give it a second, and it should import just like that. So now I can play it and it will play the animation. Now as you can see, it looks a little bit janky, so we need to do a bit of cleanup. Now what I normally do when it comes to my animation, so there is a couple ways you can clean up. So what I actually need to do is take away the plane, the sun, and this humanoid thing as well. Now what I do with a Battlefront 2 skeleton, because I had a bit of a bug when I imported it. It works, but if I go to clean up the animation in the way that I should normally do, I'll go back over this in a second. But there's no actual keyframes for me to clean up. If I click all, there's no keyframes for me to clear up. Now, if I export this into an FBX file and then re-import it into a fresh Blender file, it will work. But for most of you, it should just, with your rigs that you put in, you should just be able to see the keyframes just like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do my, I'm going to export it into the FBX and re-import normally. And I'll be back with a new Blender file ready to do the next step. Right, so now we're back. So I've got the animation imported into a fresh Blender save. And if I go into my non-linear thing again, and then I go into my graph editor, as you can see, all the keyframes are back there, right? So let me just go over just what I did a second ago. So I just back up, right? So what you'll do, if you go into your animation tab and you go into non-linear animation, we've sort of done this already before. So I did a video not too long ago about how to edit animation in Blender. And the main basis of what I'm going to be doing here is pretty much the same, but I'm adding 2 extra features and 2 extra little tidbits for animation cleanup, which didn't need to be happening with the Mixamo animation I did use last time because it's technically already cleared up. So you need to go into non-linear animation, pull this drop down again, and now you need to click tab. Right, now what that does is that makes this entire sequence of pre-keyframes editable. Right, so then what you need to do is you need to drop down, go into graph editor, and you can see all your keyframes already there, right? So you might need to extend it. So that this goes to about, I think, like 520, I think it looks like it goes to. So let's go 520. No, not quite. 570. There we go. Go to 570. So now we need to make sure all your keyframes are selected. Now this is how I do the majority of my cleanup. This isn't all of it, but again, for something simple like this, I don't need to do huge amounts. So I click F3, open up this menu, and I type in smooth. If I could. It would help if I did it over here, possibly. Right, let's click all, click F3 and smooth keys. Right, smooth keys. Do that. I do that twice just to make sure. Then open it back up again and click clean keyframes, and then that will basically get rid of a load of wasted keyframes. Right, so now if I go back into non-linear animation, now you need to make sure you go into this and click tab again. The only reason why you need to make sure you do this is because Blender will not export something when this is green. Right, when it's in edit mode, it will not export. Right, it will show up a Python error. So you need to make sure you click tab again to get rid of that edit mode. Right, so now if we go into this animation, right, if I get rid of the skeleton, you can see that it actually looks a lot more smoother than it did. However, some of the little body parts are still slightly in the wrong place. They look a little bit stiff. So what we need to do now is, what I normally do, these root bones I normally just hide. So I just click them and click hide. It just means I can see. You're not actually getting rid of them. It just means that my viewport's a little bit cleaner. So now what I need to do is I need to go into I don't go into I can do it in layout mode. And you need to make sure this bottom bit is in timeline mode. And it's basically, again, it's basically the same as what we did in that cleanup video. So I'm not going to go too in detail about what I'm doing. So literally all I need to do, it just looks like the arms a little bit deformed. Well, not really deformed, but they're sort of like too far back. They need to be brought forward a little bit. And it's just basically because I can only configure APS so far. And it's fine for like mocap stuff for generally. But obviously you need to put it into something like Blender, 3ds Max, Autodesk Maya and things like that, just to clean it up and make it look a bit more accurate, because mocap in itself, especially I'm using 3-point VR, isn't particularly accurate on its own, so you do need to clean it up. So all I really need to do is just go to the arms. So if I type in arms, it's really just the arms that are the major problem. So if I go, make sure I'm in pose mode, then we've got my rotate tool on. It really just looks like the simple case of just moving the arm forward a little bit, extending it, putting it down a bit, and then bringing it forward ever so slightly. And it's literally just little things like that that just make it go from looking like just okay to like a lot more natural. And again, I don't even really think I need to do too much more with the rest of the arms. That looks okay just in and of itself. And again, this is sort of just like, this arm isn't too bad because there isn't actually much going on with it. It's this arm that's actually a problem because this is where the animation sits. So as you can see, the arm is sort of like back in itself a little bit. So if I then go to my right arm, I can then push this forward a little bit. I can also get the forearm, want to push that forward just ever so slightly as well. Okay, right, here's something that I forgot. This is a rookie error. Make sure you set this to combine, not replace, because you have issues. Like, you will get issues a lot. Like, I'm stupid. I didn't think of that. Luckily I can just go delete. I've deleted all the keyframes anyway. That one I haven't. But yeah, just make sure that in your non-linear animation you got the little like arrow thing there. Just make sure that it's set to combine, not replace, because then you get issues. So what I'm going to do is go cut ahead in the video and redo all this cleanup, and I'll be back once I'm done. Alright, so I've pretty much got it done now. So if I just get rid of this. So essentially what I've done, move the arms around a little bit so they look a bit more in place. And I've edited the arm a little bit just so it, there you go, so it doesn't clip when it reaches the helmet and then goes back down. Easy, simple as that, right? So now what I'm going, actually now I'm going to show you how you export it. So you need to go, first things first, you need to go back into your animation tab, into your non-linear graph. You need to pull this tab down again, right? That's important, right? The second more important thing is you need to go into export FBX. I'm going to save it just to the desktop and just save it as YouTube mocap, right? And if you scroll down into bake animation, and then you need to uncheck NLA scripts and all actions. This is very important. If you don't do this, if you do not check, and now I don't know whether it's actually one of those you need to uncheck or both of them. I keep both of them unchecked because that's what I know works. If you do not uncheck both of them in as far as this is concerned, then the animation cleanup and the positions and alters to the animation we have made in Blender will not show up in Unreal Engine. You have to make sure those two are unchecked, right? So then it's as simple as just clicking export. Depending on how quick your PC is, how long the animation is, and how much actual editing you did. This could take a while, might not, it depends. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut ahead in the video to when we're in Unreal Engine and into that project, and I shall carry on and import the animation. Alright guys, so we're back in the Unreal Engine project folder, and so what I just want to show you is what I've done since we were in here last. So I haven't done any more of the actual lights because I didn't really see the need to, because the scene's actually just going to take place just with this in front of this gunship with the animation. It's not going to be all over here and everything, so there's not really much point to me lighting out, but I just wanted to show you what I've done. So I made a bit more of a nighttime scene. I need to add a glass material to this gunship, which I shall do like that. Lovely. So yeah, I just made it look a bit more like nighttime and a bit more like darker. What I've also done, so just turn my sunlight to a intensity of 7 and change the color to a bit more of a darker color to sort of like, because if it's white, it lights the scene up too much, and if it lights the scene up too much, it looks more like a dusk scene rather than a nighttime scene. So if I turn the color down, it looks more like a moonshine rather than a sunshine, if that makes sense. So just to show you, if I change this and do it all the way up to white, which it was before, if I then adjust the light intensity, it looks like a dusk scene. Whereas if it's all the way down here and it goes down to what it was before, not quite black, but a little bit like a light grey, like this, then it's sort of like, I think it looks quite like a nighttime scene, but obviously you've got these spotlights here lighting up this area. But if I go like over here or something, it's not like pitch black darkness, but it's sort of like a early dark, if that makes sense, but not like daytime dark. Does that make sense? I don't know. But anyway, so on to the more important thing that we need to do. If we go into, actually no, let's get rid of this. Go into Clone Trooper. Let's make a new folder for the Clone Trooper and call it anim base. Right, so now my file explorer here, I've got the YouTube mocap file, so we'll drag that and drop that in. Now all you need to just leave all of these settings as they are, except make sure that import animations is checked, right? Because by default that isn't checked. I always make the mistake every time I open a new Unreal Engine program and I import animation into it. I always forget to uncheck that, and I wonder why my animation's not there. It's like, oh god, have I done something wrong? Well, I have, but not that major. It's just a checkbox. So make sure that's checked and click import all. Now this might take a little bit of time, might take a long time, it depends. It shouldn't take that long because it's but I think it is going to take a long time. I was going to say it shouldn't take that long because it's a short animation, but it looks like it's going to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut ahead in the video to when this is important, and I'll be back once it's done. Alright guys, so I'm back. I'm just going to leave Unreal Engine just to compress that animation a little bit. So that took a long time, right? It shouldn't really have taken that long, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. I think it's because this world save is a bit big. So it's literally just gotta wait for it to compress animations, because otherwise it'll literally just Unreal will just crash on me. I know that because it's done it before. It's a pain in the backside. But essentially, so what we need to do is inside the mocap skeleton, we just need to assign the bones, which should be a relatively simple task. Whether it will be or not is a completely different matter. There's going to be a lot of like skipping and just dotting about in this part of the video, only just because like a lot of what has to be done as far as mocap is concerned, and even just getting from mocap to the actual finished product of animation inside of Unreal Engine, it's a lot of monotonous work, but it's essential monotonous work in order to get it to work. You should be ready by now, surely. You're not that big. Let's open the mocap skeleton. So essentially what I need to do is, this is the rig, and I need to set it to humanoid rig, and I need to load the different bones from this rig to match the ones from the Battlefront 2 skeleton. So then when we retarget them, and I actually need to do this twice, but there's a cheat around this, and I'll tell you what it is once I've done it. And this just means that the skeletons can communicate with each other, right? So it's literally just as simple as, so pelvis is hips, spine 1 is spine, spine 2 is spine 1, spine 3 is spine 2, and you just need to go down the hierarchy like that. And again, it's monotonous work. I'm not even going to bother doing the hands. I'm not going to bother doing the fingers, because there's not much finger animation going on in this mocap, and it's just extra work that I really can't be bothered to do. But obviously when I'm, let's say, doing traitor stuff, obviously there needs to be finger animations, but there's a cheat way that I get around that monotonous work, which again I'll show you once I've done this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to speed up the video. I'm not going to skip ahead, because you just all need to see this, and if you want to slow down the video for reference, you can do that. But so I'm going to speed up the video, and I'll be back once I've got everything in its place. Alright, so that's done. Now the next thing you need to do is you need to click preview mesh. You need to click the mesh that's there and click apply to asset. I don't know why this has to be done, but it has to be done. So what I'm going to do now is so obviously I've got this rig already rigged up. The fingers, again, you can do the fingers if you want. It's the same basic principle as you saw me do with the basis ones. So, but to save you from doing this for every single skeleton and every single animation that you bring into Unreal Engine, what you can do is, if you click save and go to where I'm going to save it in my content, it saves the bone mapping for this particular model. So now what I can do, if I click save and I click out of this, if I go into the Clone Trooper skeleton, which isn't mapped as well, if I go and do the same thing, but this time I click load, we see the bone mapping, and it's already there automatically. So that's already saved me another 2 minutes. And like, I know 2 minutes is only 2 minutes, but that's 2 minutes you can spend doing other things. Like, and it's even better when you have got the finger bones already done, like, instantaneously, because that's the monotonous thing. And like, so in my Unreal Engine stuff that I do for Traitor and that, I've got so all of the models that I use for animations, they've all got their own rig maps, and I've got a collection of them, collection of the files for them. So all of the fingers and all of the body animations, they're all already created. So all I do is just I map them out once, save it, and then that's done for every single animation that comes in. I can just put the rig map in. It's so useful. It's a little tidbit that I didn't actually realize that's what it was for, but I tell you, it saved me so much time. It's actually unreal. So that's the rig map already done. So if you go into the anim base, what you need to do is just right click and you need to click retarget anim assets, duplicate anim assets and retarget, and you should see your skeleton here. Don't bother about it if you haven't seen. So that's the source. If you don't see a target, it doesn't matter, I don't think. And then you click retarget and it should retarget it into the animation. So here we have the actual clone trooper that we have